Welcome back, everybody, to our mini podcast series around the NAR settlement and the lawsuit and everything that's going on right now in the industry. I've got an amazing guest with us today, Dan Elzer. So, Dan, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Curtis, thank you for having me. It's an honor to join you guys again. You're my favorite podcast to do, I got to tell you.
Thank you. Well, this is specifically around what's going on in the industry. And just for background, when we started our podcast is when everything shut down in March of 2020. And we did a daily podcast, and we actually called it, I can't remember what it called, but something around the uncertainty of what was going on, and how do you have certainty in uncertainty in the market. And every single day we brought on experts like you, where we were talking to the industry, saying this is what you need to be focused on. And right now there's a little bit of uncertainty. So we're going back to our podcast roots a little bit and saying there's uncertainty. People are freaking out. I have my opinions, but why don't we jump right in and tell me what is going on? Why is there uncertainty, and what should agents be doing right now?
Okay, I'm going to try to put it in a nutshell. First of all, there's uncertainty because we had, since 2010 through 2020, March of 2022, we had a stimulated economy other than 2019 and the shutdown you spoke of. Yeah. That economy has been just flooded with cash from the Federal Reserve, manipulating interest rates. And so people 15 years or less in the business have not had to deal with a arm's length market. That's number one. During that time, the buyer side of our business deteriorated to less than value add. I'll just call it that. So we went from where in the 80s, when I started, you wouldn't talk to a buyer without a formalized appointment that you educated them, you took them through things. That ended up in a fear of missing out market through 2020 and 2021, where it was, hey, Curtis, are you working with anybody? Are you approved? Let's go. So part of the problem we have, I blame on the fact that we had such a strong fear of missing out market. But the challenge we face today is, again, we don't want to talk about the lawsuit because, guys, the lawsuit is an equalizer to the whole industry. Nobody is being disenfranchised by the lawsuit. Every single person listening to this that's in real estate has to deal with it. So let's look at it as a constant, not as a problem. Now there's competition. They're forcing competition and fees and stuff. So if I don't have a value proposition for the buyers that I meet, and someone says, I'll do it for less, it's no different than what we've been dealing with on the list side for our whole life. Now we must have a process that discovers, know our tools, products, and services to offer the value proposition based on your fears and challenges and needs. And then, are you comfortable working with me? Yes, Dan, you're the right guy. You've got what I'm looking for. I need to take you through a listing agreement as a buyer now. And that to me is, in a nutshell, what we have to do on the buy side. It's just we haven't done it in a decade and a half, and it feels wrong. But we still have that 10%, 15% of agents that never stop doing it. They'll come up to me and go, Dan, this is easy. I've never stopped doing that. So that's where I look at it, Curtis. It is not a problem. It is an equalizer in the marketplace. Who can adapt and take advantage of it and who can't?
Well, and you said something in there that seems to be a common thread. I hope people are picking up. Is you said you have to have a value proposition, right? You have to show your value. People are always willing to pay if you can articulate and show them the value that you bring as a buyer's agent. Why wouldn't they want to pay for that?
Bingo.
Right?
Bingo.
And so why don't we just talk about that for a second? I mean,
sure.
How do you do that? How do agents do that?
Three quick things there. Number one, people out there have to understand that value is determined by the person receiving it. This is a mistake we make in real estate. We think if we come up with the right, sales presentation that it fits, and that's not true. When I meet with you, your need might be 180 degrees different than the last person I met with. So first and foremost, value is derived by the person receiving it, not giving it. Number two, we have to up value. So just a quick analogy, go back to the 70s and 80s, whenever Charles Schwab came out. Full service brokerages, you can read article after article in the archives that the full service brokerage was gone. Why would someone pay thousands and thousands of dollars when they could pay $27 to do a transaction? Well, you know this, Curtis. Today, full service as well. They're doing
Right.
great.
Yep.
What they did was elevate their service. They became fiduciaries. They became, they did the right thing to elevate their service. And a portion of the public is willing to let them make hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars doing a job that you can go to Scottrade and do for free. That's what we have to understand about the value proposition. We're not going to get everybody. There will be people that do not want to pay for the service at hand. But if I don't have the value proposition, the people willing to pay for it can't find me.
I love that. I'm taking notes.
And let me say one other thing while you're taking those notes.
Yeah.
Value proposition is about process, not about the articulated value. Okay. So if I have an agenda, a process that I follow, kind of like a doctor, if I take you through a diagnostic and I make you the center of attention, I can always bring you value. Tell me what's going on at REDX, Curtis. How are you currently handling this? What are some areas you wish you could? And all of a sudden I learn there's three elements that really matter. Then I can go into my value proposition. So if there was a way for us to do X, Y, and Z, would that add value? Yes. Well, here's how I do those things. Great. Can I come and do it for you? What we do is we say, you need me because it's a scary market out there. You need me because I can help you. No, you just told me 3 things I don't need.
Right.
But there's 4 things I do need that you completely missed. And I would pay for those 4 things, but I'm not going to pay you for the things I don't need.
So what do you think will happen then? What's the consequence? If the need is we need to up our value and kind of rise to the occasion, what do you think will happen in our industry? Do you think we're going to be able to do that?
I think I divided it in thirds the other day for a company. Okay. I said for the buyer agents, which is the majority of people, there's surveys out there that 70 to 80% of licensed agents are buyer centric.
Yep.
That as a listing driving company, right?
Yep.
So I put them in thirds. A third of them will do it immediately as soon as they learn. They just didn't know. A third will never do it. And a third will dip their toe in. We'll get some of them, we'll lose some. I'm speaking to the third that are ready to do it.
Right.
Not ignoring the other 2/3, but they have to put skin in the game for me. The people that are ready to do it and just didn't know or got, romanced out of doing it because the market was so urgent, I didn't have to, but they're ready to come back and be that trusted advisor. I'm all over it for them. Now, there's surveys out there saying that, NAR is going to shrink in numbers and blah, blah, blah. I believe that will happen to some degree, but I don't think it's going to be as drastic as they say. So I think in the end, we're going to end up with a large pie with fewer people eating from it. And you will truly be defined by, can you really go out there and provide value? Can you act as a trusted advisor, or are you going to go out there and try to just make a lot of money?
Right. Well, and it's so interesting. I think there's a lot of agents that are look for any excuse to not work. I think, and if that's offensive, you got to maybe look to see if you're one of those agents that is looking for excuses to not work. But everyone right now is just scanning all these headlines. Biden came out and said the other day in a speech, he said that he was talking about how this is going to save all this money and they're going to reduce their commissions and all this stuff. And people are latching onto this reduced commission thing. Meanwhile, as a marketer or a consultant, right, Dan, do you care what the world thinks about other consultants?
Not even the least bit. I mean, right. Curtis, think about it. I think it is an opportunity for the people who will make the adjustment, the people who will learn and make the adjustment to go gain market share and get paid what they're worth.
Right.
I truly believe it. I don't think that there's going to be this massive, race to the bottom, except for the typical third. 30% of the market's going to race to the bottom, and 60, 70% is going to find out how to add value. Because, the thing I always say, I left the Wynn. I was speaking at a conference and I left the Wynn, and I got out there and they had these fancy, expensive vehicles, a Bentley and this SUV, and you have to pay to take them to the airport.
Yeah.
And I walk out of the towers, and I was staying in the really nice part of the Wynn, and they go, "Oh, Mr. Elzer," I said, "Will you be taking the Bentley? Would you be?" I went, "No." And they're like, "Oh, but you're going to the airport." I said, "Yeah." I said, "I've got an Uber coming." You know what? The Uber got me to the airport. I found no value in sitting in their car for 20 minutes. But you know what? Those cars wouldn't sit there if there weren't people that get in them.
Right. Right.
So the question that I have for everybody is, are you the Bentley or are you the Uber? I mean, what are you doing in real estate right now? There's plenty of people for all of the brands.
Right.
And so, yes, to that point, I think that there will be a lot of companies and a lot of agents that will make a lot less money and worry about getting by. While I think there's a lot of people and a lot of companies that will have some of the greatest years they've ever had.
Yeah.
And it will boil down to what we were talking about.
And I think there's going to be some creativity involved, right? I mean,
Has to, right?
we're going to see stuff that we're not even thinking about yet starts to come, not just because of the settlement, but because of the consequence of this. If it fully goes into effect in July, there's already bills that are being proposed. There's already things that are being proposed on concessions and increased closing costs from mortgage companies, and there, we just don't know where this is going to land. And
Right.
I think, yeah, I love the idea of value that is so consistent in every single one of these that I've interviewed is you have to be able to have value, and you have to be able to show that value. You have to be able to explain it to someone in a way that they're going to receive it, which is what you're saying about, the value is perceived by them.
Correct. It has to be their value, not your value.
Their value. Yeah. And I think all of that. I also think there's another way to selfishly,
I was
I'm
hoping
a
you'd
little-
go there because I'm dying to go there.
I'm a little biased. I think there's another way to create certainty in amongst all of the uncertainty of the buyer side, and it's, why don't you just build your own inventory?
Thank you. God, Curtis. I mean, I'm a listing guy from way back. So when I do these events, I've got companies all over the nation. I've got 11 stops or 12 stops right now in April to do half-day buyer value propositions classes, take them through the actual agenda. What is the agenda to find value? The whole thing. So I've been doing that this month and next month. But I always end with this question, and I'll pose it to people listening. Since the settlement is appearing to require an agreement be signed to move forward and show. Let's say that holds through and DOJ approves it. That means you cannot go out there without sitting down with people, and they're not going to sign the document in the car on the way. You're going to have to sit down and have a value proposition presentation like a listing presentation. So what did that just do for you? Lookers and bad guys and girls, people that want to do you harm and people that aren't going to buy, will not come in the office. It's a waste of time, or it's scary. I'd rather you jump and run with me. So I ask the crowd, I go, if this is implemented and you have to have these things, will you get back time that you were wasting before with lookers and bad people? And they all say yes. And so far, out of dozens of these, the collective belief in the buyer agents I've talked to is that they'll get a third of their life back. And then I say this, let's take the third and build your listing skills so you can build your listing inventory and become a balanced agent where your buyers are the sellers you just sold. How cool would that life be? And everybody's like, oh, that'd be great. I go, it's doable. We're in a balanced market. There's a listing for every sale and a buyer for every listing that sells. So it's not an impossible thing for you to become balanced in your business. It's actually detrimental that you're not balanced in your business. So to your point, I think once you get people moving towards balance using that time, I mean, it didn't take but me getting a couple listings 37 years ago for me to go, why am I even talking to buyers? And I'm not speaking bad to my buyer agents out there, but once you manage a couple of listings and you get paid, you're going, God, I'd rather sit and manage these listings and the marketing of these listings than go lose 4 out of 5 times, trying to get a buyer. So yes, use REDX, guys. It's the best digital assistant in the freaking world for you to build your inventory.
Well, look, Dan,
he didn't pay me.
Yeah. Well, Dan, thank you so much for being on. These are short and sweet. If they want to get a hold of you for more information, where do they do so?
They can reach out to danelzer.com, or you guys can always call us 407-786-5525 and get Judy, and we can help out.
Awesome. Dan, thank you so much. And everybody, the question is how do you up your value? I think that was probably the main takeaway is you need to be thinking about how to do that. because you have to understand that before you can articulate or explain that value in a process. And two, let's start thinking about listings, building your own inventory, and think about the predictability and profitability that you can have if you have a balanced business. Other than that, thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time.